Welcome to the Starter Girls podcast, the show dedicated to the Starter Girl. She's an achiever, she's a creator, she's a magic maker, she's a dreamer, and she is doing all the things. I'm your host, Jennifer Loading, and welcome to this episode. Welcome to another episode of the Starter Girls podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Loading, and wherever you are tuning in today, we are happy to have you here. And as I always say on the Starter Girls podcast, the goal is to empower and equip you to be the best leader in all the areas of your life. And so the beauty of that is I get to bring on amazing guests talking about great topics. And I have another one on today that I'm super thrilled to have, Amy Bernstein. She practices a variety of literary arts as a multi-genre novelist, award-winning journalist, speechwriter, playwright, poet, and a certified book coach. Her new book of inspiration, Wrangling the Doubt Monster, Fighting Fears, Finding Inspiration, is going to be published in September of this coming year. And I love this. She says when she's not in total silence writing, she is joyfully engaged in coaching other writers or running writing workshops. So Amy, welcome to the Starter Girls show. We are so excited to have you here today.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'm really happy to be on with you.
This is going to be so much fun, and it's going to be good if I can keep my tongue working in the right direction and we get those words out today.
We'll try.
Sometimes I get myself, it's funny, I read this stuff, and sometimes I get my own self tongue-tied. I'm looking at it, my brain is going about 10 times faster than it wants to come out. So I always say, you never know what I'm going to say. Anyway, so we're thrilled to have you here today. And I want to open this up a little bit and give us maybe, because I feel like, when we have this show, everybody's listening in and they look at you guys and they think, I'm getting these cool people on that are doing neat things in their lives and they're sort of kind of getting to live out their passions and, whatever you come on and talk about, you're passionate about. But we all know this is a journey. Everything in life is really a journey. So I would love for you maybe just to give us a little bit of backstory about how you got into this writing and this coaching.
Right. So, it's always so easy to look backward on your life and then the puzzle pieces all seem to fit together and you're like, oh yeah, I got here because I did X and then I did Y and then I did Z. But when you're living forward, as we can only do, it's not at all clear what the pattern is. You don't always know where you're heading. You don't know where you're going to end up. And like a lot of it doesn't make sense along the way, right? We make sense looking backwards. So when I reflect back on my own journey and I see where I am now, living really kind of as a creative person 100% of the time, writing, teaching, always sort of making something from nothing. Every day I face a new blank screen and I have to decide what to do with it. And I find that really sort of exciting and energizing, and writing on Substack every week. It's just a wonderful, wonderful set of creative challenges. But I did not sort of come out of the womb doing all of that. It really has been a journey. And so I spent decades in working in government, working in journalism, working in nonprofits. And while I was always involved in something around writing, I was always involved in something around words, it was always for somebody else's mission, somebody else's vision, somebody else's orders, somebody else's purpose. And I reached a point where what was interesting is I was really successful. I was earning a high six-figure salary as somebody with a writing background, which is pretty unusual. I was really successful and I was really miserable. And it's so important to be able to see that when that thing starts twinning, like you're doing really well, but you're doing really badly, you really need to kind of figure out how to own that and then step into a process that can move you out of that dichotomy, which is really painful. So it really begins with sort of recognizing and acknowledging how you're feeling before you kind of come away from that.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting when you hear these stories. I mean, yeah, it's I always say, and this, our paths are not linear. They never really are. Very few people, come out of school, they get that job and they stick with that same path. There are people that do it but I think a lot of us, especially in the creative space, entrepreneurial space, we go through this nonlinear process of getting where we are, right? And we continue to evolve. And it's interesting. That's why I love to ask this question, like, how did you get here? And I love that you said you didn't come out of the womb, because I don't think many of us do come out knowing that, we're gonna do that. But what I think is interesting is if you think back to when you were a child, were there any moments when you go, Hey, as a child, I really loved doing these kinds of things because I always say that because I know, like, for me, when I was younger, and I'm going to age myself, I think most people follow me kind of know where I'm at, and you'll get this. When we used to have cassette players, we had our little tapes we
Mhm.
put in them, and I
Mhm.
used to record presentations on my cassette players. I had a little boom box and I put them in there and I do my own little like radio shows and my own little, presentation things. But never in a million years would I've ever thought that I'd be doing a podcast and running two of them today. And I've been doing one for almost since like 2019 now. Never would have thought that would have happened. But when I look back and I think about kind of my childhood and the things that I enjoyed doing, it all makes perfect sense, right? Because you really get in and you start figuring out things that you enjoy doing, and somehow they sort of surface later on.
Isn't that funny how we cell phone as children and we don't realize we're doing it? I think it's funny because I had 2 moments like that, one of which I've kind of never forgotten, although it's fuzzy because I was really young, like first grade, second grade at the most. The other is this really weird thing I'd forgotten from my early teen years that resurfaced, and they're both sort of these incredible self-owning moments, and you only have to re-excavate them, right? So I wrote, I guess, my first short story probably when I was, I don't know, 7, about a man who ran a grocery store, and I just remember being really excited and proud of doing it. Like, it just felt good, right? It just
Yeah.
felt good. And, you don't know why, and you can't sit there at the age of 7 and go, well, some people do, but I didn't go, oh, well, okay, I'm going to be a writer. It's like, I didn't think that way at all, but I just remember the joy that brought me. And the reason and the thing that memory even sticks, it's just a sense memory at this point, but I think that tells you a lot
Hmm.
about what we hold on to. And the other one for me is, in my 50s, I'm older than you are. In my 50s, when I was making this decision that I had to find another way to live my life because I was succeeding at work but feeling miserable,
Yeah.
I found myself beginning to write plays,
Mm.
theater work.
Yeah.
And I took a class and I met some playwrights and I started hanging out with them. I started writing plays, sort of finding my way into the form, and and so why play? Why did I do that? It's the weirdest thing is I was deep into it for a long time before I suddenly realized that I'd been a drama kid. I did a ton of theater in my very early adolescence. I was really, really deep into it. I was deep into acting. I spent my summers doing it at a special camp. I took it throughout the school year, and I did that for a number of years, and it meant a lot to me. And I think in the back of my mind, part of me might have been thinking, I think this is maybe what I want to do. For various reasons, I ended up moving away from that, mainly because my family moved away from sort of the incubator that was supporting me in that work. But I forgot it was so important to me, and I forgot all about it. And then I grow up and I start writing plays. I was like, why am I writing plays? Oh, this is why.
Yeah, see?
It's-
Well, yeah, I had a girl come on my show, and I know that people that have been watching the show for a while heard me say it. It's Krista Medlock, way back in 2020, right after we launched it. She was one of the first guests, and I remember her coming on and saying that your talents always find you, and they show up. And
Mhm.
sometimes it takes us a while to realize that our gifts, what they really are, because I think we get so caught up and wrapped up, and that's a whole nother conversation, but so wrapped up in what we think we should be doing in life,
Yes.
right? That the path we should be taking because that's the source of income, or we go to school for that particular degree, and we sort of, like you said, go into getting these fulfilled, well, I say fulfilled monetarily careers, but then wake up one day and realize that's not really success because we're not really happy doing those things that we thought we should be doing, right? And then what happens is we have these moments where we find something, we go and explore, and then we realize, hey, I'm kind of liking this. And then we go, oh, because this is something that I really truly enjoy. And I'm kind of good at doing this. And why
Right.
have I not been doing this for a while? It's good.
No, it's true. Yes, absolutely. We do. We have talents that we um, also don't explore. We have, and this because we live in a culture that does not encourage a lot of that.
Right.
We are, I mean, you were getting at this. We're encouraged to succeed in very recognizable ways, in very measurable ways, and we're not really encouraged to experiment to take risks. And I don't mean entrepreneurial so much,
Right.
because that's a rare area of risk that we seem to respect and champion. But when it comes to especially anything that's arts related,
Mm-hmm.
it's seen as it's a hobby, it's a sideline, it's a going down a rabbit hole, it's a something that something that's sort of a little nutty and crazy, as opposed to being potentially the central exploration of your life.
Yeah.
Something really creative. So I always want us to be recentering that.
And that's a good point that you brought up right there, because I agree with you on that. I think that, first of all, I love creativity. So I like what you're doing, because I think creativity is so important. This is a whole nother topic, because when I talk about flow with people, creating harmony, I don't like to use, I don't ever say balance, I say harmony. When I talk with because I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and when I'm talking
Hmm.
to them about creating flow in their life, there's usually that flow part is something that they're probably going to enjoy doing, but they're going to wrestle with, because it's not something they necessarily feel they have time to do
Hmm.
or can afford to do. And it could be anything, and I had a client one time that was, going to fighter pilot school and wanted to fly, wanted to work for the government and fly. And, I told her one day, just get in, work, get a ride, get a plane set up, go where you need to do, get in that thing and fly that thing and practice. And it
Right.
was the best thing for her, because she came down and was like, oh my gosh, why was I not doing this? Like, she loved it, but I think that is what I think of when I think of flow. And a lot of times I think it is the art things. It's playing piano, it's reading, it's writing, it's blogging, it's podcasting, it's whatever it is. Maybe it's a sport, I don't know, but it's something. A lot of times it's some creative piece that we tell ourselves we don't really have time to be doing. But I honestly think when you add a little creativity into your life, whatever that looks like for you, you're probably going to be a little happier in life.
Well, and I think the happiness really comes from connecting with something deep inside ourselves that we suppress and
Mm-hmm.
repress.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're not in touch with something that matters to us. And
Right.
as you say, it doesn't matter what that thing is.
Right.
It's not acknowledging it, or it's not being able to acknowledge it, like me forgetting that I'd been done all that drama in school because that wasn't serving me anymore, right? In my quasi governmental corporate life, and realizing how important there was something so important in there for me.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I mean it's a hard thing to do. We do, especially as we get older, we tend to narrow our funnels instead of widening them. That's not true for everybody, but it's
Right.
true for a lot of people. And we sort of need to start going broader again, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. Well, let's talk about this, because I know one of the things you talk about is, pivoting in midlife. And I love this topic, because I feel like I've had a few people recently that we've sort of kind of been addressing this topic. Because again, I think, like, we were talking off camera, right? Off this episode, that a lot of times, we get to a certain age, and I don't know what that is for everybody, but we have this metric, right? Like, we have a metric when we're supposed to retire. I feel like we have metrics for everything. When the kid comes off the ball, when to lose the diaper, when they should move out, when there's a metric for everything. And I think as we age, we start having metrics on when we think we can start doing things. We sort of say, well, we're too old to do that. And I think, I don't know how you feel about this, but I personally think that we're really never too old to do anything, as long as it doesn't harm us. Like, I'm not going to tell you to go climb a mountain if you're 80, if you're not fit to do that. But I think wherever you are in your life, if there's something you want to do bad enough and it's that important to you, you should be able to try to pursue it, as long as it doesn't harm you or anyone else.
It's absolutely true. And what all this comes down to is mindset. Again, I am generalizing. It's not true for everybody. We do
Right.
get more risk averse as we get older. We get more conservative, and I mean small c conservative, as we get older, for a lot of reasons. I mean, you know, physically, you start watching how you go down the steps, and you start worrying about falling. And I mean, all these things happen to us physically. Maybe your eyesight's not as great as it was, and so you find yourself, you know, struggling to read signs on the road. And so all these things start to happen at a certain point, and at different ages, and which make us a bit more cautious. And intellectually we tend to grow more cautious because we get good at the thing we're good at. We're compensated for that. Our friends and our families respect us and see us for doing the things well that we already do. Why would you step out of that lane? I mean, it's going okay for you. And But, and the big but is the rewards of pushing yourself out of a comfort zone for a number of reasons. First of all, for in part for its own sake, because it's an incredible opportunity for growth, especially into the last big third of our lives. And that third is a very, very big third. Um, because we're living longer,
Yeah.
and healthier, right? Um, and so we're doing it for its own sake, but also to what I alluded to earlier, many of us, get to a point where we're really settled in our careers. We're still many years away from retiring. And, you have that moment, like in the Peggy Lee song, is that all there is? And it's just not enough anymore. It's not enough. And that sense of not enough often comes out, I think, paradoxically, from our own competence. We've gotten so competent at what we do on a day-to-day basis that we're not really challenged anymore. We're not really scared anymore. Nobody's daring us anymore. And again, this is not true for everyone. There are people who manage to continue to grow and feel deeply challenged by work that they do. But many of us aren't there. And so if you can begin to ask yourself questions about um, what what other things might spark fear and joy and passion all at once, sort of what scares you, what might you try that scares you, we can start to step into a different way of thinking about our time and our energy. And I learned a really, really hard, important lesson when I made this pivot from sort of standard, salary-based work, gradually into completely, freelance artistic work. When I made that transition and I started writing fiction, um, and I was getting rejections for my work, which is a very normal uh, thing, right? I remember this big epiphany. I was really upset, and felt incredibly depressed, incredibly discouraged, and really lost. And it wasn't just about the nature of rejection itself. It was that my entire adult life, I had done really well professionally. I had been not only well compensated, I've been given numerous awards for my work. So I'd been recognized, oh, you're really good at this. And we see that you're good at this. And we're going to celebrate that you're good at this. I step away from that into this other thing. And it's newer for me. I haven't had as much experience. I'm not as good at it. I thought I was going to be instantly good at it. And I had to realize, it was such an important moment. I had to realize, oh, you're starting over.
Yep.
You're not an expert in this. This is hard. You have to learn.
Entrepreneurs, are you ready to level up your leadership skills? Tune in now for an exclusive offer designed just for you.
This is my time.
Did you know 63% of consumers prefer businesses aligned with their values? Recognizing your core values isn't just vital for business growth, it's the bedrock of effective leadership. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or an aspiring creator, identifying your core values is a key step in constructing the framework of a successful leader, enabling you to lead authentically, expand your business, and live life on your terms.
Never settle, don't play. Putting the kettle to flame. I go 100 all day. Foot on the pedal, no brakes. 10, 9, paid on my dues, waited in line. 8, 7.
Are you ready to access tools to kickstart your leadership journey? Unlock a treasure trove of insights and get your free resources at www.linktree/JenniferLoading. Take that crucial first step toward realizing your leadership aspirations and elevate your leadership game today.
Ready to shine.
And so you need to be open to failing again, to learning how to fail again, and to feel okay with that, because that's what gets you to new areas of competence. It's scary. It's scary especially when it's not what you're used to hearing.
That's a good point you brought up. So I had a mentor that talked about basically these principles of success, and there were 4 of them. And one of the things he talked about was that you may be good in your craft, but let's say you left, you started a new business, moved from, corporate to entrepreneur space, even though you're doing something in there that follows with you, you're in a new arena now. And a lot of times we come from the place we were and we go into this new place thinking that we can carry all these same skills. Everything's going to be equal coming into the new space. No, you're going to, like you said, have to learn some new things again, let go of some things. There are some things that come with you, but you're still in a new space now, learning new dynamics. And I think so often we do this. He was talking about, it had also to do with like your wisdom, how long you've been in we were talking from an entrepreneur space, but really how much wisdom you've gained, how much time you've been in business, did you switch gears? Like I came from the network marketing space. I was in Mary Kay for 22 years. And when I started to bridge out in 2018 and form my LLC, all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, like I have been selling, I could recruit, I could close people, I could get people to event. I never had problem getting people to event. And all of a sudden now I'm in a new arena where I'm doing something a little bit differently. And yeah, I still had some charisma that I brought with me, but now I'm having to do something different. I'm marketing my product. Now I'm branding Jennifer Loading, not Mary Kay any longer, and so I had to really, like you just said, sort of kind of take a back seat and realize, Jennifer, you're in a different space now and you have to adapt and evolve to move into this new role that you're trying to do. And the great thing about that is that I think you touched on this earlier about how we get great at our craft and then we sort of stop learning. I really believe that we have to continually keep learning. And that's why I do these shows, is because I think anybody listening to this, hopefully they're coming to the table with the mindset that this is a continual evolution of who we are as human beings, period. And so in order for us to evolve, we have to evolve in different areas of our life. We got to continue to keep learning and growing in all the different places. So I love that you're really an example and a testimony to not only switching gears, but also kind of making this transition midlife, sort of kind of going, hey, I'm stepping out of this place where I did really, really well. And now I'm moving into the unknown, the abyss. And even though I got great skills that I'm carrying, this is a whole new game now.
Well, yeah, and even from just a practical standpoint, because we can certainly talk about this from, psychological fulfillment and emotional health, but from a practical standpoint, many of us are living well into our 80s, pretty healthy, most of our faculties intact, right?
Yeah.
And we're still exercising, we're still traveling. Well, but you may not be working full time. So
Right.
you really need to prepare an identity to carry you forward, where as exactly as you're saying, you're becoming a lifelong learner, and you can't expect to walk out of work at the age of 68 and just suddenly snap into some new life. It's not going to, for most people, it's not going to happen like that. So we need to be really intentional about thinking how we make this pivot. And, not everybody's going to want to become, quote unquote, an artist in some sort or other, but everybody is going to need to find a way to embrace new, long-term, meaningful challenges that offer opportunities to grow and change. And I mean, the truth is that art, defined as loosely as you like, making something from nothing. I mean, this could be, whether maybe you want to learn how to bake bread, maybe you want to, become much, much better at golf. I mean, it doesn't matter really what it is, but it's about really embracing it sort of as a learner and from a place of sort of passion and discovery. That's what's so important.
Yeah, that's a good point, Amy. I think that's so true, even for, our young listeners who are kind of embracing empty nest syndrome too. I think it's another, type of transition where they come out and it's like the same thing, this is what makes me think of, because I'm sort of in that phase now where I've still got one that's at home, but he's kind of in and out the door. But I have always been of the mindset that I have to have something for myself, because I just don't ever see myself just being completely sitting still. And I knew that even when my kids were home, I mean, I started my business when my oldest I actually started teaching aerobics when she was about 18 months. I want to say there. So I was working, doing something. And then I started I started Mary Kay in 1999. So she was born in 96. So she was right at about 3. And so my kids, they've always seen me do something. And it made for me, when they started leaving home, I'm not going to say that was an easy there. I think those moments are always difficult, but it gave me something else to focus on outside of being consumed in that. So I think there's some really good points in all of this, no matter where you are, being prepared and having something, and whatever that looks like. You just happen to be in that creative space, but whatever that looks like for you, I think your point is valid in many scenarios.
Yes, and it's funny because my path was not that dissimilar to yours, in that, my daughter was born in 92, and probably somewhere around 96, 7, 8, I went to get a master's degree. It's like, okay, moving on now.
Yep.
Next thing. Now, to be fair, it was a distance master, so I could be home still
Yes.
much of the time. But I mean, it was a lot of work, and I loved it. I absolutely
Yes.
loved it. But yeah, it was like that notion of yeah, and it is important for us to we have to be more comfortable in our culture with risk and taking risks and everything that entails. I mean, we really we tend to prefer the sure thing,
Yes.
and we have to get comfortable with risk, particularly those of us who um, um, not everyone can afford to take every kind of chance,
Right.
to be sure.
Right.
But those of us who can afford to take chances should be taking them.
Yeah, I agree. Exploration is a good thing. I try to tell my kids that exploration. Sometimes you don't know what you want to do, but you're not going to find out unless you explore.
Right.
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 So I want to talk really quick because I know you work with writers and artists and kind of help them get things rolling. And so tell us maybe a little bit about that. What do you what's an ideal client? What does this look like for you when somebody's coming to you and they're saying, hey, I want to get something out there and I'm hoping to change the world with my creative piece. And what's my next step?
Right. Well, mostly I do this through book coaching.
Okay.
Although I do know people who are in sort of other artistic disciplines. So, a book coach is an accountability partner and a guide and a champion for an author who may be struggling to complete the author journey on their own. So
Love it.
many writers embark on a book and they're very excited, and then they get stuck, or they get discouraged, or they don't know how to get their way through, or they write a first draft and they don't know how to make it better. And while I focus on nonfiction writers, I do also work with some people writing memoir and very selectively fiction. And what this is really about is that, forever, authoring has been a very lonely kind of a thing. You sit
Yeah.
down by yourself with your pad and pencil or your computer and you write. But in truth, and we know now because there's many book coaches out there having just amazing, very exciting success. When you have the right partner by your side as an author, someone really can help you get through the thicket and understand structure and understand what's going on with your characters. What are you really trying to accomplish? Who really is your reader? What is your best path to publishing? How do you get through the dark days where you feel like you're never going to finish this thing? So when you have someone to help you take that really difficult journey, they're not writing for you and they're
Right.
not telling you what to write, but they're really walking the walk with you. And that kind of guidance has helped so many authors to really get over the finish line and to get an agent or sell a book or self-publish a book, whatever the goal might be. And they're all good goals. So that work is incredibly rewarding. I feel like I'm watching new babies being born into the world. I really am helping my authors to create books where there was no book.
Yeah.
It's a very exciting process. It's arduous. There's no question, but
Yeah.
it's wonderful to sort of help that. We need more of that in the world.
Well, and I can resonate with what you're saying because I'm a coach as well. And I think that I may have a book writer come in. Most of the time I'm working with somebody that is trying to get their business up and running. And it's something where they're either at the beginning stages or they're kind of stuck. They're going along, but they're trying to level up and they're sort of stuck. And we know as coaches, from one coach to another, a lot of this is head stuff. It's not really that they need to learn another hack. They don't need us to tell them what to do. They don't need us to, they need more of a mentor, an accountability partner, somebody to encourage them and champion with them. Because I too have written a book and it can be work and it can be at times you want to shut that and put it down and not. And I thankfully had somebody kind of by my side when I was doing it that sort of kept me moving along because there were many times. So I get it. I think it's much needed. You're in the area. So I love what you're doing with that.
Yeah, it is really rewarding work. Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. All right. So maybe anybody that is at the beginning stages of writing this book, what's the first thing? Or maybe the one most important thing that you could lend them to get this thing done.
Well,
I know there's a lot to it because there's not
No,
one
I know.
thing really.
I
but
know.
you're like, what can we inspire them with that one thing?
The horrible cop-out answer is, well, it depends on the person.
Yes.
It does depend on the person, but
Yeah.
I think what I can help an author maybe out of the gate is let them know that I see them and take their work and their goals very seriously. You know, many, many, many people are out there writing and trying to write. And it's astonishing how friends and families are not very supportive. And in fact, they make fun of
Right.
them all the time. This is truly a thing.
Yeah.
It's so much a thing that there are Facebook posts about how writers can face their families at Christmas. This notion being, well, are you done yet? How haven't you finished it yet? How many copies have you sold? Why haven't you published that thing yet? You're not really. This isn't really
Yeah.
like this. So this is a thing. So
Yeah.
a book coach can first and foremost look at that author and say, I see you. You are doing this. This is real. You are real. This is serious work. And you're going to get this done. Authors need to be seen, heard, and believed. That's so important because they have to internalize that, but it really helps to have that reinforcement. So I say that's sort of like maybe a really key starting point.
Yeah, and no, it's good that you said that because I think that a lot of times endeavors when you're, especially in the creative space, like we were talking about, 'cause it's thought of as a hobby a lot of times. And I think people don't take that kind of stuff seriously. And then what ends up happening, I don't know about you, but having come from the background of Mary Kay, we always were encouraged to make sure we share our dreams with the right people, right? Like get into the space with the right people because people around you don't like to see change, and that stuff threatens them when they see you growing and doing things that could potentially give you a level up. It's not that they are worried about you being better, it's just that how is that going to impact them, right? Like you changing is going to impact the relationship, and they fear, and so they start projecting and get into the whole psychology of that. But I think all of us at one point or another have been through something like that where people around us have not been quite supportive. And I think it's great to have people like you or myself or a coach in the corner that can say, hey, look, we hear you. We got your back. You're going to get this completed. And I tell them, hey, you need call. Like, I'm going to be a cheerleader. Like, I want to see you cross that finish line, right?
Exactly.
So you need those people in your life. And if you don't have a coach, find a group of people, whomever that's going into networking, whatever you need to do to make sure you're sharing those dreams and those passions with the right group of people.
Absolutely, 100%. It's very true. And book coaching is a relatively new profession in the sense that people have done it informally or on their own for a long time. But now, more and more book coaches like me are becoming certified through Author Accelerator, which is really kind of the premier program for that right now. And it is a really, truly wonderful journey to go on to become a book coach and to work with authors on their own journey to get published.
And you've done it. So, I mean, it's great when you're in that space. I always feel like we learn by helping others. And so I think when you're, in the space where you're continually helping other people, you're growing at the same time. They're growing, you're growing. It's everybody's growing, and it's a good thing.
Absolutely.
So, all right, Amy. Well, this has been awesome. I'm so excited for you, and congratulations on your upcoming book and all the work that you're doing. I think it's great. If, let's say, somebody listening to the show, maybe they're in that space where they're ready to write a book and they need some extra, stuff there, or they want to see your work, whatever, where would you like us to send them?
Well, I am open to new book coaching clients, and it's so easy to schedule a free call with me. The way I say it, one hour call with me can potentially change your life as a writer. That's actually just true. That's not even just hyperbole. And so my book coaching website is wordfirstbookcoach.com. Literally wordfirstbookcoach.com. It's all done as one word. And my author website, and you can sort of crisscross between these two, is amywrites.live. And so you can learn more than you ever wanted to know about me at these various places.
Awesome. Well, this has been great. So yeah, thank you so much for your time. I know that we're all busy, and so I'm always grateful when people can come on and share a little bit of wisdom about their journey. And I know our listeners enjoy hearing these stories and the information. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Jennifer. I've really enjoyed the conversation.
Yep. All right, you guys that are listening in, be sure you head on over to Apple, give us a review over there. Check us out on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. And as I always say, be kind to one another, and we will see you next time. Take care.